Welcome to the Racial Restrictive Covenants Project. This short video will help you get started looking for racially restrictive covenants and housing deeds from across the state of Washington. Getting started with your first deed is a three-step process. First, you'll want to watch our training video, so you're ahead of the curve. You can return to this quick video at any time for a refresher by going to the Racial Restrictive Covenants Project website. Second, you'll go to Zooniverse.org to create an account, if you don't have one already. Select Register in the top right part of the screen and complete the registration form with your information. Once you complete the registration step, you'll head back to the Racial Restrictive Covenants Project website. From here, you will complete the final step by navigating to the Zooniverse project through the direct link on the Racial Restrictive Covenants Project website. On our Zooniverse project page, first make sure that you are signed in by checking in the upper right-hand corner. If you see your username, you're all set. If you see Sign In, choose that option and sign in with your username and password. Then you will scroll down to find our workflows. There are two types of workflows in the project. The first is a training workflow to help you get started with the project, while the other workflows are different counties in Washington state. We recommend you practice a few transcriptions in the training workflow before moving on to the county workflows. The process in both workflows is exactly the same, but the training module does not feed into an actual dataset, so the stakes are low while you're getting the hang of things. We'll go through a couple transcriptions in the training module. When you click the workflow link, a window will open with a deed document on the left and a response box on the right. We recommend doing this project on a laptop, desktop, or tablet. If this is your first time transcribing, a tutorial will pop up that gives a brief overview of our project, background on covenants, and the process of transcribing deeds. We recommend that you spend some time reading that brief walkthrough. You can always find more detailed information about the history of covenants at the Racial Restrictive Covenants Project website. Choose Let's Go to start transcribing your first document. We've structured the training workflow so that you'll first see 5 documents with annotations of the specific fields we want you to transcribe. After you complete the classification of those 5 images, you will then see 10 additional documents, this time with the answers to the workflow's questions in the document's metadata. To view the metadata, choose the small I at the bottom of the interface. We hope this will help you get comfortable with the process of classifying and transcribing these documents. For the rest of this video, though, we'll work with unannotated documents. The first question you will answer is, does this deed have a racial covenant? To help you with this task, you'll be shown a page that we think has a racial covenant in it, as well as the page that came before it and after it in the original document. In order to answer this question accurately, please read the entire page before choosing one of the options. To make reading the document easier, you can use the controls in the upper right-hand part of the document viewer to zoom in or zoom out of the document, as well as move the document around so it can be read more easily. If you want to reset the document to its original view, please choose the last option. One thing to notice about these documents is that sometimes there's more than one deed in the set of 3 images. You can tell the starting point for a deed by looking for its document number in the left margin. I've highlighted the number of this particular document. Please pay close attention to these numbers so you're entering information for the correct document, which will help us more accurately analyze and map the information contained in these documents. And while the information we're looking for in this particular document is all on one page, I'll go through an example later where you'll need to look at the other pages of a document. Okay, back to our first task. Is there a racial covenant here? And yes, here it is. So I will mark yes. If you'd like some examples of what covenants might look like in these documents, click on the Need Some Help with This Task button and examples will appear to help you. While all of the documents in the training workflow contain covenants, you will encounter documents that do not have any racial restrictions in the county workflows. For these, you'll press No and it will take you to a new deed. Sometimes, because of the way these documents have been formatted, you might find 2 different racial covenants on a single page. These are from 2 separate deeds, and because of the way our data process is configured, you should choose the option that says there are multiple covenants on this page. The research team will then review this particular document, making sure the right information is matched with the correct document. Finally, if you get a deed that is confusing or hard to read, you can mark, I can't figure this out, and you'll be taken to a screen where you can tell us more about it. But for this document, I am certain that there is a racial restriction, and so you'd select Yes and hit Next to continue. The next question will ask what the covenant says. Please type the racially restrictive language exactly as it appears. Usually, the covenant is in the form of a complete sentence. This document says, said tract shall not be sold, leased, or rented to any person or persons other than Caucasian race, nor shall any person or persons other than of Caucasian race use or occupy said tract. Once you type that in, reread your transcription for accuracy, and then press Next to continue. For the next task, we're going to ask about what kind of geographic information is in this document. Please choose the option that best matches the document you're looking at. We'll go through each type of option here, but we strongly recommend you choose Need Some Help with this task to see highlighted examples of each type of geography. The most common geographic information you'll see will be some combination of 1 to 3 lots or tracts, these two terms are used interchangeably, blocks, and addition names or plats. These two terms are also used interchangeably. If you see a document that has 1 to 3 of these geographic elements, as in the example on the screen, please choose this option. Sometimes you'll only see a lot or tract and an addition name. If this is the case, choose this first option, even though it doesn't contain a block. Some documents will feature a series of lots or tracts, blocks, and additions or plats, such as in the example on the screen. If you see more than 4 of these different elements in a document, please choose this option. You'll choose only a lengthy property description when the geographic information is a paragraph or more describing the property using fractions, latitude or longitude degrees, north, south, east, west directions, or other kinds of units. You can see an example on the screen. If the document has any text indicating this is for a cemetery plot or series of graves, such as the example on the screen, please choose the cemetery plot graves option, even if you find any elements of the earlier choices. Petition covenants are a declaration of covenants when homeowners decided collectively to make their neighborhood a restricted neighborhood. You'll want to look for a few characteristics in order to know for sure that this is a petition document, an example of which is on your screen. These can include only one name at the top of the document, in this case the seller, often followed by et al. Or et ux, since it's representing multiple people, the word restriction or restrictions in the top of the document, a short or long list of names next to specific properties, and stating the addition name in the first paragraph of the document and the racial covenant in the second paragraph. Make sure to check for multiple of these characteristics when identifying a petition covenant. If there is geographic information in this deed that doesn't fall into any of the above categories, please choose the Something Else option. Finally, if you don't think there's any geographic information on any page in this document, please choose No Geographic Information. You'll be taken to different next steps depending on the type of geographic information in the document, so don't be surprised if you don't see all of the subsequent tasks I'm about to show you. In this document, we can see that it contains a lot or tract, block, and addition name, so choose the first option and choose Next. The next task will ask you to transcribe the lot or tract, block, and addition or plat name. We can see that in this document, the lot is 18, the block number is 4, and the addition name is Victory Heights. Please enter the numeric values, even if they are written out as words. After you check what you've written for accuracy, press Next to move on. Now you'll be asked to find the name of the person or group selling the property. This is usually at the very beginning of the deed. You might also find it referred to as the grantor or the vendor. If this document doesn't contain information on the seller, please leave the field blank. In this document, though, Goodwin Real Estate Company is the seller. Type the name in the field, and after checking for accuracy, hit Next. After transcribing the seller information, you'll now look for information about the buyer. This is usually right after the seller at the beginning of the document. You might also find it referred to as the grantee or vendee. If this document doesn't contain information on the seller, please leave the field blank. In this document, though, W.N. Hill et ux is the buyer. Type the name in the field and, after checking for accuracy, hit Next. Finally, you will record the date of the covenant. Look for a date on the document, typically at the start of the deed or in the first paragraph, though sometimes it will be at the end of the document. For this document, I can see on this 25th day of October, AD 1928. You can enter information in these fields via a drop-down menu, or you can type it in. So I'm going to enter 25 for day, then I'm going to select 10 October for month, and 1928 for year. Once you've completed that question, you can click Done to finish your first transcription. You'll be shown another document that we think contains a racial covenant that you can help us better understand. If you want to tell other volunteers or the research team about this document, you can click on Done and Talk to be taken to the talk board for this particular document. Leave your question or comment, and a member of the research team will respond within 24 hours. Let's briefly go through another example, this time where the information is spread out across multiple pages. Just like before, we start on the second of the 3 pages, which is the one we think contains a racial covenant. We can see that it does indeed have a racial covenant, which I've highlighted here. So we choose Yes and choose Next. For the next question, we type in the covenant and choose Next. To answer the question about geography, we need to look at the first page of the document. To toggle through the multiple pages, use these circles at the bottom of the page. When you go to the first page, make sure that you are looking for a document number that will tell you that you're on the same document as the one where you found the racial covenant. I've highlighted the document number here. We see that this contains a lot or tract, block, and addition or plat name, so we will select the first option and choose Next. Now we will transcribe the 3 values. For lot tract, we will put 44, 45. For block, we will put 16. And for addition, we will put Overland Park. Once you've checked your entries for accuracy, you'll choose Next. The seller of the property, which in this case is referred to as the grantor, is listed as People's Realty Company. So you'll type that in the text field. Remember, you might see this field referred to as the seller or the vendor. The buyer of the property, which in this case is referred to as the grantee, is listed as Harry Bowman et Ux. So you'll type that in the text field. Remember, you might see this field referred to as the buyer or the vendee. Finally, you'll look for the date. In the case of this document, there isn't a date at the beginning, but there is one at the end of the document. Remember to make sure you're looking at the same document when you go back to the second page. You can see the date here, 7th day of March, AD 1928. So I'm going to enter 7 for day, and then I'm going to select 3 March for month, and 1928 for year. Just like before, you can click Done to receive a new document, or Done and Talk to leave a comment on this particular document. You can also see what other people are writing by choosing Talk in the menu bar at the top of the page. Here you can check out our general discussion board, where you can read and respond to questions and discussions that have been added by other volunteers, or start your own. Thank you so much for volunteering your time to help us with this project. Without our volunteers, this project would not exist. It is the work of all of us in our community that allows us to confront the history of structural racism and make necessary change to our contemporary system of inequality.